Well, what's for sure is we've been discussing lots of West Indies cricket this month on the SportsMax zone, and it continues as the 16-member squad for the three-test series against Australia, which bowls off on the 25th of June, was released earlier on Tuesday with a few changes. Speculations of a return for Shai Hope were confirmed with his inclusion along with Casey Carty and John Campbell, who is back after serving a ban for a whereabouts violation. Uncapped Brandon King and Kevlon Anderson have also been included, while 21-year-old seamer Johan Lane replaces Kemar Roach into the setup. There were no places for Alec Athanaze, Kavem Hodge, nor Joshua De Silva. Well, we've pulled for Nikhil Uttam-Chandani. He joins us via Zoom to, of course, discuss this. Nikhil, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hi, Maria. I'm well. Very hectic day and week in West Indies cricket. A lot to unpack.
Yeah, a lot. So let's start with this team, of course. Roston Chase, he will captain the side. What were your initial thoughts when you saw the names in this test squad?
Quite surprised, actually. I know it's a new era with Darren Sammy taking over, but I don't think I expected such a big overhaul in terms of personnel. And maybe it's a sign of Darren Sammy making it quite clear of a change in brand in the cricket he wants to play. For a while, we've spoken about the West Indies' lack of being able to put teams under pressure in the test format, especially with bat in hand. But look, I think you, at the same time, need the right players to be able to execute and carry out that skill set. And I think there's some bold and brave decisions being made here in the picking of this team. You could look at Shai Hope, who since his 2021 test match, the last one he's played, he's only played 3 red ball games. So many could question, what's the basis of that selection? How do we know that he will be able to succeed in the red ball format? And Brandon King played 4 games in this year's red ball season, only averaged 30 with 350s, and hasn't really been informed for the West Indies in the white ball format. So yeah, there are questions there with no Athanaze and Hodge, but yeah, Sammy's made up his mind, and clearly we're going to see what the next 3 test matches look like.
Yeah, brave and bold decisions, you said, and I guess only time will tell because these are just names on paper. Of course, we're judging from what we would have seen from them in different formats of the game, but it's only time when they, of course, suit up against the Australians. With regards to John Campbell returning into the setup, we know what happened with him when it came to the short ban and all of that. What does he add to this team?
Well, when you think about the West Indies and their opening lineups, maybe in the last 5 years, the most successful one, numbers and just aesthetically, was John Campbell and Craig Brathwaite. And obviously, you expect that maybe they come back together. He's done enough to earn himself a spot back in the team, score over 500 runs in this year's 4-day season. And again, just aligning with what Darren Sammy wants, which is someone who can, inflict and put pressure on opposition bowling attacks. He did it against England back in 2019, and he'll be hoping for similar returns. I want to see, with such a big break from the international level, if he's able to, readjust to that quickly. That will be key. But interesting that they've kept Mikael Louis into the squad, even after a run of low scores. He's only 24 years old and is playing in the A team, but I don't think they would bring Campbell back into the team and not play him, and I certainly believe they'll go with Craig Brathwaite. So I think that could be the opening too, and Louis has cover.
Nikhil, how unfortunate is Kavem Hodge that he's not in this squad? I hear the conversations around Alec Athanaze because obviously he's a young and tremendous talent that has been identified as one that could really move forward with West Indies cricket. But the fact is, his performances have not been great either at the West Indies level or at the regional level. But I must admit, even though he wasn't great in Pakistan, but nobody was really great in Pakistan, the Kavem Hodge exclusion really surprised me.
I think if you look back at since the start of 2024, Hodge has been the West Indies' leading run scorer in Test cricket, followed by Athanaze. 103 50s, Ricardo. And he's shown us at times, I think about the Test match 100 in England, I think about the times he fought in the Bangladesh series for the West Indies. He's shown us at times, I think, what his ceiling can be, and that's someone at number 5 who can be very gritty, who can just wear down oppositions and be persistent. For me, though, for him to be left out, and look, you know, even with the 100 and 350s, his average in Test cricket in the last 11 Test matches is only 25. So he himself has not done, you know, a lot to make sure and cement a place, but he's still been the best of the rest. I think, though, it's a clear signal to me that Darren Sammy has made up his mind that he doesn't want guys who are going to be gritty and determined in his batting lineup. He wants the Brandon Kings and the Shea Hopes, who he thinks will play a more expressive brand. Whether that's the right decision and it will work, I don't know. But just based on that communication and my thinking, it actually surprises me more that Athanaze is not in the team, because Athanaze has shown us an inclination to really want to attack bowling lineups. Think about the way he took down Keshav Maharaj with his reverse sweeps last year in Trinidad. I would have thought he would have been the one that you sort of invest in, because Sammy wants to be more attacking and aggressive.
Yeah, but even in a team where you're looking for aggressive players, you still require players to hold the innings together. You still require players to bat for long periods. So I'm not sure if I agree with this idea of going all-out attack. I have said, and for a long time, I have said that we need more batsmen in the West Indies setup who are, especially at the top of the order, who are willing to take on bowlers. But it can't be that you are looking for that type of player all the way through your batting lineup, Nikhil.
I think I'd agree with that, Ricardo. And I think if they're looking at King and Hope being in the team, having Hodge in between maybe both of them would have been a perfect balance. And just to have someone that you can, you know, rely upon to hold an end and occupy the crease for long periods of time. I wonder if Casey Carty, who's averaged 17 in Test match cricket in 5 matches, was originally left out of their squad, and then based on his form in the white ball formats, has then elevated him and allowed him to keep his place. And that's why Hodge and Athanaze have missed out. But it's a brave call. And as you said, if you want to go down this line, like England, for example, and want to attack from 1 to 11, it's going to either come with, you know, big ramifications or it come with big rewards. So time will tell.
Yeah. Faz brought this up in the previous segment about the treatment of Kemar Roach, the West Indies' best fast bowler for the last decade and almost a half. And I suspect the fact that he's not in this squad means it is the end of the road. Can't wait to hear Darren Sammy, the West Indies head coach, speak on this. But what do you make of how Roach has been treated in this instance, if it is that it is the end of the road for him?
Well, from my understanding, I've heard that he's going to be in some mentorship position or still affiliated with the team in some capacity. I'm not too sure. I don't know if that's official, but that's what I've heard, just as he now transitions into the second part of his career. And it seems then that if he's not in this Test team at home, where he's been much stronger than away from home, it would likely signal an end for Kemar Roach. It's sad because he probably deserves, you know, a better send-off. He deserves to be probably given royal treatment and guarded and honored around the Caribbean if he's going to really look to retire from Test match cricket. Or he could see it as another way and see maybe going back to the county setup and first-class system and working his way through performance back into the team. But it's tough on him, you know, to not be included into this team. And I understand Sammy wanting to go to Anderson Phillip and Johan Lane, who are two names that have been, well, Phillip especially has been knocking on the door for a while. But I think in the Caribbean, this would have been probably the last chance to give Kemar Roach to make an impact, just because of how well he's done at home, especially at some of these venues like Sabina Park and Kensington Oval.
Yeah, and I'm not suggesting that we should do things because we see other nations doing them, Nikhil, but we've seen, even in recent times, other nations who have given outstanding players one Test match of a series as opposed to an entire series. So even in a situation like this, that could have been considered for Kemar Roach, that he be given one Test match as a farewell. And I know I say farewell, but it's not as if Kemar Roach still hasn't been bowling well for the West Indies, and especially at home, where he is generally superb. I don't think anyone would complain if he had been given even one Test match to say goodbye. I would like to say in a proper way to the people of the Caribbean, because he's been our most outstanding fast bowler for a decade and a half now.
Yeah, I think it's hard to argue with that. And maybe this doesn't mean the end for Kemar Roach. Maybe he thinks with trips to New Zealand and India at the end of the year, maybe he thinks he can work his way back into the test team. That could also be a possibility. But another thing that surprised me about this squad was that I thought because it was at home, the West Indies would maybe announce a squad for each test match. It's done sometimes around the world in different countries. And you sort of assess and see with an 8-team series against South Africa going on now, you see where the form and where your batters and bowlers, how they're shaping up and looking, throughout each individual test match. So they could have had an option where they give Roach that first one, if they're picking 16, alongside one of Phillip and Lane, and then you see maybe you bring in the other one for the duration of the series. But they opted to go for both the inexperienced players, and we'll see how it pans out. I think it makes it quite easy as to what the seam bowling lineup will look like, though. Seals, Shamar Joseph, Alzari Joseph.
Yeah, have we missed anything with this squad, Nikhil? We know over time the Australians have struggled against spin, especially off spin. Yes, Roston Chase is in the side. Warrican is in the side. Have we missed the opportunity to add another spinner, specialist spinner, to this setup? And looking at this, does it mean that the captain Chase will be more of a bowling all-rounder than he will be a batting all-rounder in this setup?
Well, it's interesting because originally when I heard Roston Chase coming back to Test cricket, that's the sort of role I saw for him. Maybe bat at number 7, do a lot more bowling. But looking at this team with Brandon King, Shea Hope, and maybe Casey Carty / Kevlon Anderson at 3, maybe Roston Chase now is going to bat at number 5 and allow Hope to bat 6 and Graves to bat 7. I've got another question. Who wicket keeps? Is it Shea Hope? And is he going to bat at number 7 where he started his test career?
He's not wicket-keeping, Nikhil. Tevin Imlach is going to be the wicket-keeper.
Okay. You're very sure of that? How do you know that? How do you know?
As sure as I can be with everything that's happening in West Indies cricket right now. But I can't see Shea Hope wanting to wicket-keep in the test format.
That's too much.
I'm just putting out there that it's a possibility. There's also Amir Django as well. So I don't. If Hope is not keeping, then we expect him to bat at maybe 4 or 5, where he would have batted in 2021 when he made a return. But yeah,
by the way, Django is not in the squad, and he was in the squad for the Pakistan series, but he's not in this squad.
Okay, apologies. I may have missed that. A lot happening today, but
trust me. Don't worry, Nikhil. I've had to look at this squad every single time I'm about to make a point to ensure the point I'm about to make is accurate. Based on what we have in front of us. Believe me, it's not that easy.
Yeah, so based on your analysis and assessment, probably they'll go Shea Hope at maybe 5 or 6, and then Imlach as the keeper.
Yeah, I wonder what Donald would go.
Who cares? My question is, though, is in regards to the fact that these test matches are going to be played in Barbados, St. George's, as well as in Kingston. And I'm wondering if there's been conversations in terms of the state of the pitches that Sammy would want to kind of mold this 11 into the game that they should be playing against a very strong Australia squad and, of course, their renowned bowling lineup. Do you think that there's a little bit of an issue there in terms of how this 11 may shape up on these pitches in the Caribbean?
Well, Donald, I can tell you I've been to Kensington Oval and Sabina Park within the last 3 weeks. And what I can tell you and West Indian fans is that there is live green grass on these pitches, and I expect that to stay on. And obviously the West Indies will think, if you think back to Brisbane when they won the test match, there was the Pacers that won it for them. Shamar Joseph was brilliant. And look, it's a brave call again to think you can outpace Australia on these pitches, because as much as it will be green for the West Indies, it'll be similarly green for Stark, Hazelwood, Cummins, Boland. So look, it's brave, it's risky, but I think they've analysed and assessed that there's pace attack with Jaden Seals and Shamar Joseph and Alzari Joseph is the strength and their way to go, and think that they can win this series. Yeah,
so Nikhil, you were in Jamaica within the last 3 weeks and you didn't come and visit any of us. What were you doing in Jamaica within the last 3 weeks?
I don't understand what relevance that has on the test squad.
To be so intimate with the Sabina surface.
Actually, I just made a quick trip over to check on the Sabina Park surface, so I could have the information ready for the show, and then I left.
Very diligent. Impressive.
To check on the surface, he says.
We must pay him well.
We must for him to just travel like that across to Jamaica and just say,
I mean, let me go
for
and check
research
on the pitch at
purposes,
Sabina
for
Park.
this segment on the zone.
For the match,
That
that's the
wasn't,
third test.
But here's the thing, though, and you know this, Nikhil, right? In terms of Sabina Park and the pitch over there, it can be a little bit too paced, especially on that first day. So the toss is a little bit important. So even though you see the green on a Sabina Park strip, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be really, really quick, especially the first couple of days. You agree with that, right?
Yeah, and let's also add the caveat that it's a day-night match as well in Jamaica. So I don't think the West Indies will be able to predict how exactly that wicket and surface is going to play. And let's not forget what happened in Jamaica when Bangladesh came and what was in it for their seamers, but also Taijul Islam, the left-arm finger spinner. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting, and the West Indies are going to have to be adaptable more so often than not in the series. But yeah, let's just leave my travel and personal details out of this conversation.
All
So
right.
it was personal.
No, I said
Nikhil.
personal details.
Nikhil,
So the trip was personal.
Can we
It's
go to
okay,
a break?
Nikhil.
Or what
Nikhil,
we
I'm going to
have
save
planned?
you. Nikhil, I'm going to continue because we have other cricket to talk about.
Okay, nice. Perfect. Brilliant.
Over
Let's
in
move on.
England, the West Indies, led by Shea Hope, wrapped up a miserable white ball tour with a 37-run defeat to the host in the third T20 International in Southampton earlier on Tuesday. The Caribbean bowlers were put to the sword by the Three Lions batters, with openers Ben Dockett 84 and Jamie Smith 60 putting on 120 for the first wicket as England racked up 135 for the loss of one at the halfway stage. Unbeaten cameos from Jacob Bethel 36 and captain Harry Brook 35 then pushed the host to 248 for 3 from their allotment. Well, in a contrasting display, the visiting openers, Evan Lewis and Johnson Charles, fell for identical scores of 9 as the top order failed to fire once again, leaving the West Indies at 70 for 4 in 7.1 overs. And despite a fighting 45-ball 79 not out from former skipper Rovman Powell and a 27-ball 45 contribution from the captain Shea Hope, West Indies could only muster 211 for 8 in 20 overs. West Indies captain Shea Hope knows exactly where his team needs to improve. This is what he said. For us, it's critical moments in the game with bat or ball. We haven't put a complete game together. We have to keep dot balls down as much as possible, keep scoring consistently, and marry power and finesse. Well, meanwhile, the England captain Harry Brook was happy with his team's display throughout the series. I'm very pleased the lads have done well. They've played exceptional cricket. It's been a challenge, but we've responded really good. I like the depth in the batting. It gives the lads at the top permission to go out and get us off to a flyer. So, Nikhil, of course, contrasting responses, and rightfully so, because our openers failed to fire, but we're hearing the England captain talking about his openers doing well and the depth in their batting.
Yeah, Maria, I think it's an interesting time for West Indies cricket on a whole, but especially the T20 team, which is supposed to be the strongest format. Shea Hope is a new captain, but Darren Sammy's been the coach now, and I think some serious introspection is going to need to happen before the Australia series, because let's not forget, a T20 World Cup is in 8 months' time. You've just lost Nicholas Pooran yesterday to retirement, who would have been a centerpiece of all your plans around that World Cup. And I'm looking at the squad, and a lot of guys are out of form. A lot of guys haven't found the same consistency that maybe they would have in a CPL or in franchise cricket. And I think this is now 4 series in a row. You go back to Sri Lanka after CPL last year, they went there, lost 2-1. You go to England coming to the Caribbean, lost that 3-1. Bangladesh lost that 3-0. And now England, 3-0. That's 2 wins in 13 T20 internationals for a team that many in the West Indies would like to think will challenge for a World Cup win. And it's just not good enough.
Yeah, and you know, we can comment on the batting for a long time. But what about the bowling as well today, Nikhil? Because really, really expensive.
Yeah, obviously, look, to concede 83 in the power play was never going to be ideal. And I think that's what allowed England to get to 250, even though the West Indies were able to pull things back. in the middle at some stages. But again, the death bowling continues to be an issue. And it's just sad because it's not even like you can look into the Caribbean, into what the other players are offering and say, if you get this person in, they can really, excite or maybe improve your death bowling. I mean, they invested in Shamar Springer and Terrence Hines briefly. Maybe that's an avenue, but I just can't see it. And this goes across the board. I can't see the West Indies doing the same thing, playing the same players, playing cricket the same way, and expecting results. I'm looking at the batting today, and look, 83 for none is not, the numbers is not good, right? But I don't think they bowled as badly as 83 for none sounds in the power play. It was just really impressive batting from Ben Duckett. And what was impressive was that he was hitting the West Indies good balls to the boundary. Why? Because he's so adaptable at using the ramps, using the angles, his placement and timing. And I look at the West Indian batters, and I just think they don't have that in their repertoire. So it feels now that so many teams, the better teams around the world, are just passing the West Indies by because gone are the days where you can just have power in T20 cricket and expect to win.
Yeah, gone are the days for sure, Nikhil. So we wait to see what the upcoming days have in store for West Indies cricket and if we'll get any more information this week. Thank you so much for stopping by on the SportsMax Zone, and hopefully the next time you're in Jamaica, you actually come in studio. Okay?
Mariah, once I'm there for more than a few hours, like I was to check on the surface, then I'll definitely be coming in.
All right, good on you, Nikhil. Have a good evening and we'll talk again soon.
You too, guys.
He's talking about the Sabina Park surface, right? That's what he was talking about?
I would
For a
like
few
to believe
For a
so.
few hours.
You think he needed all of a few hours to?
To check on that surface alone, I'm not sure.
Up on a break, guys. We'll be back. I'll be back with Zone Update 2.